Julian Bashir hates the carpet on the USS Sao Paulo. Jeffrey Combs has a very busy week in the makeup chair. And Lita and Impella want to keep more of their tips, and Quark is going to think about it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 24, The Dogs of War. This is a dream team right here. Story by Peter Allen Fields. Teleplay by Renee Echevarria and Ronald D. Moore. Directed by Avery Brooks. This was May 26th, 1999. Where were you? We have a very special guest today. Mr. ARMIN SHIMERMAN is joining us.
Hello, hello, hello.
And of course, It is a Nog episode. Melissa Longo is also here.
Hi. Hi.
Yay.
We have so much to talk about. Yay. Before we do, though, very quickly, we have a very special thanks to give out to Bill Erickson, a.k.a. War Dog Heim. Everybody knows and loves Bill Erickson. So thank you for sponsoring this episode, Bill. He's been waiting
for the Dogs of War.
Almost a year. Almost a year.
Yeah, he's been calling it out. Dogs of War, Dogs of War.
How you guys doing?
Yeah, okay. Doing good. Doing very good. I love this episode. I thought it just layered. It was so much in this episode. Like halfway through, I was thinking, this is a full episode just in the first half already.
For real,
that much in it.
Seriously. It felt like the three storylines felt like they could have been episodes unto themselves, right? Like there was Armin's full episode. It felt like he went through. There was what was going on Cardassia. There was Julian and Esri and all that stuff. But Armin, first things first, right before we hit record, you said you're wearing your special Deep Space Nine jacket that says Armin on it. When'd you get that?
When did I get
in the
that?
90s.
I mean, was it like first season, seventh season?
92 or 3, maybe. Probably some orange makeup. See, it has no collar.
Because they usually have the big collar.
I would wear to the makeup trailer, but so that Karen, with no collar, Karen could work on the back and the side of the neck without interfering with having any interference in the clothes.
Karen Westerfield.
So you removed the collar.
They did when they gave it to me. Yeah, when I got it, we all got one.
I got one, but mine has the high collar.
Yeah. Mine had the collar was never on, and I think they must have understood that I was going to probably in the early mornings be wearing it in the makeup trailer, and get in the way of the makeup process.
What a cool jacket. I don't even know where my jacket is. I've lost a lot of that stuff that they gave me over the years.
Got some stuff on the wall behind you that I recognize.
I do have some of those. Those are definitely something I cherish. But we got a lot of very good gifts throughout the years. Thank you to the art department and all of the departments that were involved in giving out gifts during the holidays and at the end of the season. So definitely grateful for those goodies.
Hey, Carmen. Sorry, I was just going to say, can we just ask you just to open this up? If you remember what the mood was like, this was the penultimate episode. This was the second to last episode. Everybody knew it. Everybody was aware of it. Can you tell us what your mood was, or what the mood was around the set? I almost said the station. What was it like?
Well, it was slightly melancholic because we knew we were getting to the end. I don't think it was despairing. I don't think anyone was, beating their chests because we were coming to an end. It had been 7 years for a lot of us, and we knew that things had to come to an end. But there was some sadness, of course, that we were coming to an end. So it was a little of both. And I, for one, was sort of upset, but grateful because really I didn't know what else the writers could possibly do with my character. They could do a lot with some of the others. I think Cirroc's character could have gone on for another 7 years, certainly.
You're here.
But my character had sort of fleshed out everything that he was going to do. There's more from Nog to do. There was more perhaps from Ram to do. But Quark had run his course. I'm sure more storylines could have been invented, but I was happy with what we had done.
Yeah, and this is a great episode that gets into a lot of the mindset between the old Ferengi and the new Ferengi of what Ferengi is going to become. Right. Was there any input on this direction, or was this something that you kind of accepted as Quark's destiny?
As usual, there wasn't I didn't have any input into what they were writing. I do remember in this episode, a very sort of strange thing occurred to me, which was bizarre considering it was the penultimate episode of Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. I got an early script. I don't know how that happened, because usually I didn't get an early script. And it had certain things in it. And then about 4 or 5 days later, I got the script that you are aware of, the one that actually got shot. And it had changed somewhat, at least my story had changed. And I was told that, I said, well, why did we have these changes? Not that I was upset, just asking why. And they said, oh, Berman revised the script. Now, for 7 years, I did not think Berman had anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Where'd he come from?
And I went, really? He has oversight on the scripts and he makes changes? And they said, yeah, he did. And that was an epiphany for me. And considering how long I've been serving on that show, it's strange to me that I didn't know that until the very end. And the other thing about this story that I remember a great deal is I was very much aware that many of the characters had very interesting character arcs. People changed. I could see how Kira had changed. I could see how Sisko had changed. I could see how Bashir had changed. And I thought, before this episode, I thought Quark hasn't really changed at all. He's just pretty much the same charlatan that he'd always been. But this script showed me, and it was, again, an epiphany, that, oh my God, he's changed a great deal. He's a long way from where that first season was. And it wasn't until I read this script and became involved with this script that I realized that subtly I've been changing a lot, and just the actor had not been aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Was one of those changes to keep Quark from becoming the Nagus? I read that was producer's choice as to not have Quark become the Nagus because they felt like he was the heart of Deep Space Nine. So they wanted him to remain there on the station. Was that one of the changes, or
no? But I totally agree with the producer's choice. That's the first I'm hearing of this, Melissa. That was a possibility. Quark is in no way capable of being the Nagus, as far as I'm concerned. Whereas Baum is, and certainly Nog could have been as well if that's the direction he had gone in. But I don't think Quark would have made a good Nagus, and I think Rom would. So no, the changes were Quark. I realized with this episode had become homogenized by living with the humans and the humans and the Bajorans, and that he had become, and I'm going to put this in quotation marks, more human. And I didn't realize that. It had always been my agenda, as I've said many times, to make the Ferengi, especially my character, more three-dimensional, more human, more of a character that people could connect with and recognize themselves in that character. But I hadn't realized to the extent that writers and I had succeeded in that. And that this episode really brought home that there had been a great deal of change, a great deal more humanity in the character than had originally been there. And as I said, it was a surprise to me. It wasn't until I read the episode and went, oh my God, yes, I've changed a great deal.
That's really interesting. I would think that based on what you said there, and I agree, like it was a very slow change. So you don't really notice it day by day. But then when you look back 7 years, you do. But I feel like you as an actor adding so much depth, more depth to Quark, the character, than I think the writers had initially intended. And that was, and you deliberately did this. You wanted to create a character more so than a caricature. And I submit, I think that the fact that you were able to do that really gave characters like Rom and Nog and Brunt more to work with, more scripts with them in it, more roles, because your growth, your rising tide was raising all the ships around you, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, and it's very flattering. Thank you very much. Perhaps I'm going to agree with you, but I'm also going to say one of the things I didn't do very well, and which gave the other characters that you just mentioned the opportunity to do a little bit more, because it's not that I failed in this area. I'm going to tell you what it is in a moment. But it's just that I wasn't as good as they were. And that is, I wasn't really good at farce. And that, what I mean by that is to be significantly over the top. Yes, Quark is over the top somewhat. But if you needed a character to be really over the top, the other three people that you just mentioned, Jeff, Aaron, Max, they were quite good at that.
Zek
is good as well. Good at that.
Yeah.
And so when the writers wanted to write out and out farce, out and out outlandish comedy, and Ira once told me this, they realized pretty quickly on, don't give it to Armin, give it to one of the other
three. I felt like, now that you're having this kind of enlightenment about what was going on at the time, it's changing my perspective of what I saw. And specifically, I wrote down the Quark's Archie Bunker moment. I felt like you went Archie Bunker in this episode at some point. Like, hey, whatever happened to the, rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer? And, the good old days, and
it's those good old days. I had not realized that I had changed significantly from that frame of mind. And that episode reminded me, oh my God, yes, you have. Yes, you have.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it changes the way I see it. I at first I thought I said, well, Quark hasn't changed. He's still stuck on that. But I think you're really now, as you're having this conversation, it seems more like this is what Quark has changed from. He's going through the list of things that he used to be, and things that he was accustomed to, and he's going to what have we come to if you can't ask sexual favors from the people you employ? Like, it seems like you're saying this is where I've come from.
That's my Harvey Weinstein moment. Yes.
Yes, yeah, but it's also like, I don't know. You really made me cry in this episode. I felt very emotional about watching you in this episode. Specifically, the brother moment between you and Rom, I just thought it was as good as it gets, and as authentic as it gets as far as feelings that were conveyed in the performance. So I was very moved by it, but I also was very intrigued by your performances with opposite Avery in this episode. What were some of the things? Because there was a moment that I felt like was an Avery moment. Maybe he got it out of you, or maybe you just added this yourself. I'd like to know. But it was the moment when the camera pans across the table and closes up on you on the moment when you're just taking in the fact that you're going to be the Grand Nagus, the new Grand Nagus, and you just make this sound. And I was like, where did that sound come? Was it in the script? Was it just in the moment? Was it something that you discussed with Avery about, doing something?
Yeah, Avery was directing,
Yeah, but I love that moment. And it seemed like a moment that he kind of would encourage you to Just, yeah.
I hate to burst your bubble, but I don't think Avery had any input into that whatsoever. He was the director, so he could have told me not to do it. So I guess he not telling me not to do it. That's right. Yeah, he said okay, but I don't. Avery was a very good director. He gave you lots of things to think about while you were shooting scenes, for which I'm enormously grateful. But I don't remember him having any input into that.
I love the choice. I love the choice.
Something that either I had chosen to do while preparing to do the scene, or something that just came out while I was shooting the scene. If I try to leave myself open while the camera is running, especially if we've already gotten one in the can already. By that I mean we've already got one print done already. To just whatever happens. If it's already one in the can, they've got what they need.
Right.
But they they often will try to get another one as well. And if I know you've already printed one that you're happy with, then I can pretty much do anything as an actor, and maybe some magic will happen then. So that's maybe what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was magical. It was no words, just But it was. I literally rewound it about 10 times. It just was laughing. I love this with you and Nagus when he calls in and he says, the static is breaking up, and he says, "If you know what I mean," and he's talking about going to Ryza with your mom, and you do this kind of like "good for you" type of facial expression. I love the moments there. They were so special.
Well, I understand, and Melissa is fully aware of this. At this point, all the Ferengi, including oh God, I'm just an old
Nagus.
No, the Nagus.
Zach, yeah,
Zach, yes.
Including Wally. We're all family. We understand each other very well. We've constructed an ensemble that we're very proud of, and we know each other's quirks, and so that's something that came out of all the years of being together, which, that group of people were very tight, as I'm sure the people that surrounded your character were very tight, as the people who surrounded Nana's character were very tight, as the people certainly who surrounded Avery's character were very tight, because they had worked with each other and were an ensemble. We were mini ensembles within an ensemble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Except for Dorn, right? Not Dorn.
No, we love Michael. I wanted to say though, I did think it was special because there were a few people that we had worked with all this time that finally got a little bit more shine than they usually get.
That's right. There were two, and you mentioned
Impala.
Yeah.
And David, who was there from day one, who was this Ferengi that never had any lines.
Broik? Yeah.
Broik.
Yeah, he got some love.
Got a name. Very happy about getting Broik. He was very happy.
The two of them got some love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, finally.
It's a tribute. Tribute is the wrong word. It is a kindness, more than a kindness, but it is a kindness to the writers and the producers, saying, you know what, these guys have been here since day one, and they've never really been sufficiently recognized, and we're going to recognize them, right now.
Beautiful.
Morn became an action figure doll, but these guys actually got lines, which I think for them was probably more important.
That's true. There is a Morn, but there is not a Broik, and there is not an Impella.
I thought it was special that they gave them the opportunity to speak, because they had been working alongside us this whole time, playing background essentially. And in
David's case, he was my stand-in, and we worked like a team, David and I. I would go and get final touches on makeup or look over the lines or whatever, and David would be in front of the camera with the camera crew as they're working out the blocking, and I always when I was called back on the set, went immediately to David and said, "What do I need to know about the camera blocking?" And he would always tell me, and I was always a little bit ahead of the schedule because of Dave's ability to inform me what I needed to know.
Oh,
what
so
a valuable
awesome.
player! What a valuable guy!
So
And he doesn't get enough attention. And I owe a great deal to David. Because we worked as a team. We were a tag team. I did the performances, but he did the camera rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a tribute to the kind of unsung contributors to this show, and I'm glad that the writers took the time out to give them some lines, increase their pay scale, and also give them a chance to speak on camera for their own legacy, to be able to look back on their days and contribution. I thought it was say classic.
Very quickly,
just so that everybody knows the politics and the business, the show business, is that if you don't speak, I don't know if this includes Morn or not. It certainly didn't include the Nagus's bodyguard.
Might hard do.
If you don't speak, you don't get a residual, unless it's worked out that you can through your billing or something. So these guys who were there for 7 years and didn't speak and had to get made up as much as Aaron and Max and I did, they didn't get any money for residuals for the episodes we planned. Because they got lines in this last episode, they got some extra money, which is very nice.
I just wanted to add that David B. Levinson, I believe is his name. He played Broik all the way back season 1, episode 2. So from the very beginning, and he was in 39 episodes, which is amazing. That's almost as many as Aaron, who did 47. And the lady that did Impella was Kathy De Buono. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sounds Italian. But she was in a great many episodes as well.
She was also Terry stand-in for fights.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, she Terry stand-in for fights. She was a stunt person. I think she may have started out as a stunt person and then matriculated to being a background. And I believe, Cirroc, help me here. I believe Kathy was Terry's stand-in, as David was my stand-in.
Yes.
I believe Kathy was Terry's stand-in, not from the beginning, but
at some point. Yeah, at some point past the 3rd or 4th season. Yeah.
And she was in 18 episodes as an actress.
Yeah. And remember, that's just the episodes that she appeared in. Like David, there's going to be a lot of episodes where they didn't appear, but they stood in for us.
Right. And and those stand-ins do a lot of the dirty work when it comes to taking measurements from the camera, when they're tracking which which way they're going to move the camera. Those guys are standing there for the lighting, for while they're assembling and setting up lights. So there's a lot of dirty work that they do. And John Bennett was the man who would stand in for Avery Brooks. I remember John Bennett also being in a few episodes on camera, but also being a great stand-in. So,
who was your stand-in, Cirroc? Who was your stand-in? Do you remember?
Todd. My stand-in was Todd.
Really? Todd was your stand-in?
Yeah. Well, when I got tall enough.
Didn't you? I was going to say you should have gotten one like every season, like a different person.
Exactly. It was different sizes at different times, but at some point, Todd was my most longest running stand-in. But yeah, these guys put in the work. They were right alongside us the whole time, and they were in the trenches. They did the late nights. They did the makeup. They were sometimes reading scripts. But they did work, so kudos to them, and also for being alongside us in the trenches as we made this show.
So we're going to take a quick break here, everybody. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk about Armin, Quark, the Grand Nagus, all of it. This episode is amazing. Deep Space Nine is fantastic, and we appreciate Armin for joining us. Stick around. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.